Career Focus. This you'll need if you are starting your career. Focus. If you are in high school or in college, come and hear the skills, the roles and goals you need to know to keep yourself focused. Best believe it, you gon' need it. Career Focus. Career Focus.
Hello everyone, and welcome to a new exciting episode of Career Focus, part of Influential Future. Today as my guest I have Alexander Angelov. He's currently a head of data and analytics for a Danish company, and he will talk with us about data science, data analytics, and all different areas of data. Hi, Alexander.
Hi, Alex. Glad to having you here.
Thank you for taking the time. Can you give us a brief introduction about yourself?
Yeah, sure. As you said, my name is Alexander Angelov. I'm currently working at SiteImprove as a head of data analytics. I've got more than 11 years of professional experience performing in-depth analysis of data sets for a number of various organizations and industries like publishing, SaaS companies, fintech, energy, banking, and finance. My academic background is in the mathematical statistics, data science, and sustainable business risk management.
That's very interesting. So can you give us, obviously in high school, you're finishing high school, you're trying to determine what you wanted to do. Did you have a clear idea what you wanted to do after high school in terms of education or as a job, or it was not so clear cut?
Good question. Not really. As a kid, I wasn't very much into education. I was trying to study so many different subjects, but I haven't found my passion. So not sure if it is from my teachers or from my school, but I was not a great student. However, I was very good at maths. Like I was the best in my classroom. And it maybe one of the best ones in the school, I would say. So this was the only subject I liked as a kid. So maybe because of the other kids didn't like it so much, or I just wanted to be different. I don't know. But everything changes, however, when I was a student. I started very low. I had like 4 2s out of 5 examples. So I'm currently Bulgarian. So I'm Bulgarian. And in Bulgaria, you've got a system, the education system is by 4 different grades, like 2 being the lowest and 6 being the highest. So if you've got like 2, obviously that's, you failed. So I had like 4 2s out of 5 exams. So like only one subject I passed. So it was super difficult at the beginning, but then when I found that there were scholarships available, I was skyrocketing with the results. And I got a prize, like an award, best success in 2012, graduates in statistics. Award at Sofia University with 2 references from the top professors in the statistical departments. So that essentially really skyrocketed my educational thoughts of being able to get money out of all of this, because at the beginning, I just didn't find that, not a passion, but maybe an interesting field to get involved.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was kind of how I started my career. But I was auto maths from the very beginning. That was really interesting to me as a kid. Maybe because of my family. I've got like a really analytical family. My dad is a professional chess player. My mother is a founder of an accounting firm. My sister is a CFO of a blockchain company. So it's always been maths and analytics and all of these numerical subjects. So yeah, that's how I started. And my bachelor degree prepared me as an analytical specialist with skills for using methods of mathematical statistics matched with how to say, like mathematical preparation using the newest information technologies back in 2012, of course, but there were still new technologies back then.
Yes,
so I developed my kind of theoretical knowledge in the stochastic sphere. So in the theory of probability, accident processes in statistics, as well as practical abilities in data analysis and creating the probability models of research situations. So I was the course representative in my bachelor in statistics from 2008 to 2012, representing like a cohort of 32 students. And attending and contributing to meetings with senior academics, professors, and help a lot of students to achieve their best results. So I was kind of guiding them of how to succeed and how to follow my path of being successful at the university.
No, that's very interesting. And obviously because of your passion in mathematics and statistics, is that why you tried, at least initially, to move into finance? Or was it a more nuanced choice?
No, that was, I would say that was my family choice, because they were into this kind of finance sphere at the very beginning. And I was trying to go to the banks and being a banker and being in the financial institutions from the very beginning. And then I wanted to study risk management, which is essentially again into the banking sector. But in Bulgaria back then, it was impossible because there was not a university. I'm not sure now, but back then there was no university offering a risk management course or a subject that was not existing. So then I spoke with the family. They said, okay, well, we can invest for you to go abroad and find that subject. And then this is how I ended up in Wales, in Cardiff, of studying that subject, because that was back then one of the cheapest options to study that subject. And coming from Eastern Europe, obviously that was a lot of money back then. Like the pound the ratio was 250 to 1. So was really difficult for them, but I'm really glad that they invested in that, because then I kind of started my career back then. But that was impossible in Bulgaria. You can't really study about it. But how I've been inspired and knowing what to do is by one internship that I started with BNP Paribas in Sofia. So in that internship, I was really be able to see all of this in real life and seeing like, what is this? What? Okay, I know that my family wants to go in that sphere, but what is this about? And then when I jump into that and see all of these lovely people, they were all great professionals, all Bulgarians. They're really, really knowledgeable people. But then I wanted something more. I just wanted to be more than what they offered me. And obviously they wanted me to join in the company and to be part with them. But I just felt that if I still continue, I will do the same things that they do for the last 10 years. And I wanted something different. So that's why I just wanted to learn more about it. But then being limited to, because you can't. So then I found that subject, obviously, by ranking all of these universities. The university back then was called University of Glamorgan, but they changed that to the University of South Wales. It sounds a bit fancy, but it wasn't the best university. But I only have chosen this because it was one of the cheapest options in the European Union back then. Obviously, you can go to Germany, that they've got really powerful ones as well, but I can't speak German, and I cannot be part of the community if you don't know their local language. So that's why I've moved to that sphere, if that was the beginning of your question.
Yeah, exactly. And consequently, you moved into finance, you stayed in finance for a little while, and then consequently, you became more involved in data, and then consequently did a second master's degree, right?
No. I've got one master degree in sustainable business risk management. That was in Cardiff.
Yeah.
And then the other universities and courses that I did was kind of, again, courses and diplomas, but they're not master degrees. They're just a year course or 6 months courses. I've got like, I don't know how many certificates, but I still even nowadays want to develop myself and always trying to find not what is the hype in the market, not what is all people talking about, but what my weaknesses are. So I'm trying to see where I can improve. Sometimes people think that their managers or their C-level should tell them where their weaknesses are. But if you cannot really examine yourself and see where your weaknesses are, then no one else will tell you exactly, because they can see how you work, how you perform, how you talk, but then they're not in your shoes. So
no, exactly.
So you're the only person who knows where the weaknesses are. If you're criticize yourself and see, well, Alex, you should develop in these spheres because on these scenarios you haven't been that successful and you want more. So let's find the best people in the world and some investments to teach you to be a better version of yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, what made you go more into data analytics, data engineering? Was it a specific interest, or you saw this is where your interest lay?
Good question. Not really. When I graduated these internships in Bulgaria, one in BNP Paribas for like a year, and then one in UniCredit Bank, which is an Italian bank, but they've got a lot of branches in Bulgaria. Back then, I don't know now. But then after these two internships and went to Wales, that was super difficult because you had to have a working visa back then. Firstly, you need like a yellow, they call like yellow cards, which allows you to a limited number of hours you can work. And then
exactly.
Blue one, which is again you've got limitations by the number of working hours. So then I've got tons of these educations and knowledge about all these great models. But then how I can apply that? Obviously, I applied for every single job available. I applied for like, I don't know how many job applications I sent, but a lot. Like I even didn't, for some of the, I remember back then, for some of the jobs, I even didn't read the job descriptions. I just see the titles and just apply, and maybe like hundreds. And luckily enough, one company accepted me for a role in Blackpool, which is a small city on the north in England. And it was super challenging for me because I went there, I packed all of my luggage and just, let's go to an adventure. I didn't know this. I've never been into Blackpool before. I didn't know the culture. I didn't know the people. I didn't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I went there just with one big suitcase with everything possible, all my clothes of my entire life, and then moved there, find kind of a small hotel to start with, and work there. There was a consultancy called PCMG. So they're kind of the consultancy and leading provider in the energy sector in the UK. And that was super challenging for me because I was the only foreigner. And they've got really, well, back then, I wasn't really able to get all of their requirements because their accent was super difficult for me, for a Eastern European with very little professional experience in England. It was super challenging. It was super difficult, but I was very good at the analytical parts. So I invented so many things that they never actually thought about, and different calculators and different models. And I was really good technically. So that was, I think, my biggest strength for success. And this is how I started my career, just being highly analytical and being able to find anomalies and data issues by just looking at the data. So you just open one Excel spreadsheet and I just staring at it. Well, I can clearly see in line 15, there is like $1 million silent, where in the other ones are kind of, I don't know, 100 or something like that. But that was really how I started. But it was difficult. It was super difficult, especially in 2012, 2013 to find a job because of all these working visa restrictions. And yeah, back in Wales, I remember, because I have to have money to survive, right? It was super expensive for me. I applied for so many different jobs, like even like selling shoes and pharmacies and in cloth industry, in hospitality. I think I've been into a waiter job for 2 days. And they didn't like me. So, well, you're not for that job. I know that I'm not, but I have to have money to survive. So yeah, that was really challenging start. But then finally I got my first company and being there for about 2 years before I moved to London.
And obviously, once you moved to London, did you find the experience a bit more easy afterwards, career-wise?
Yes, I would say so, just because even nowadays, London is probably the best city in the entire world. You've got so much here. Like, people just don't really understand of how powerful London is in all aspects. Like, this is probably, I wouldn't say the fastest growing economy, but you can do everything job wise. Even like living in London, you can go to the best theaters in the world, you can go to the best shows in the world, you can eat food from the entire world. Even sometimes the cuisines in the restaurants here are even better than their original ones from their original in their countries itself, because they're being adapted to Western people. So in London, yes, you've got career-wise, you've got so many different cultures, and that helps a lot because all of these people came from different backgrounds, different situations, different working experiences, being one of the best professionals in their careers, in their countries, and then bringing all together in London. And that's huge because you can really see all of these stuff from a different angle. You can see analytical parts, modeling, regressions, all of these stuff from different angles of how they approach that in their countries. Obviously, I'm Bulgarian. In Bulgaria, I would proudly say that we're one of the best ones in economics and programming, because we've got world champions, we've got European champions. They're really, really good developers and analysts in Bulgaria. So that probably helped me to develop myself here, because I've seen all of these different professionals and absorb their knowledge and apply my techniques to them. But yes, in London, I found it difficult just because I made that transition from Blackpool to London with the same company, because they've been acquired or maybe partnered with Amy, which is kind of another kind of umbrella company. And I just talked to my manager, look, I'm really wanting to go to London. I really love this city. Is there any possibility for me to move from PCMG, which is the company that I work for in Blackpool, to London? And they say, well, Alex, that will be a challenge for you, because obviously we cannot pay you the same amount of salary, right? You've got in the north, they're not really well paid jobs. And I moved that with the same salary, but here my rent and my cost of living are like double
at least, yeah.
So that was super challenging even to survive, but I didn't want to leave, because obviously I'm with that company. They brought all that trust to me. So I just wanted to continue to grow and trying to be like a one-man department in London, working for them. And that's how I ended up in London. Obviously, I found another company after that, which was a kind of a startup company called Open Corporates, which is the largest open database company in the world, even nowadays. And I'm not sure if now this can be considered again as a startup because they have more people, but back then we were like four people writing bots to go to the well, I probably should say what is bot, but essentially writing scripts in Ruby to get data from public registers. So, for example, in Bulgaria, you've got kind of a portal that stores all these company informations, and we write bots to get that data from there into one single database. In the UK, that's UK Companies House. They've got APIs, you can get that data for free, but then that helps a lot for investigations, for journalists, for even like MasterCard or all these big companies that they essentially became a client of us. But that helps them again for a lot of different purposes, for credit scoring, finding out what is the relationship between the different entities, corruption, and all of these kind of relationship between the entities. So yeah, and then that's how I ended up my Blackpool-based company to a London-based company, and I work in a great office, probably one of the best offices I ever have in my life, in Canary Wharf, in this One Canada Square, which is like one of the tallest buildings, and level 39, and you've got like amazing view for yourself every day, which was awesome, which is something that I will never forget.
Amazing. Yes, I was also based in One Canada Square, but when I was at BMI, our offices were a bit higher, 42nd to 46th floor, I believe.
Oh, nice. So then you know exactly.
The view. Yeah. And obviously, what did you think of data science and data engineering? Obviously, then it became more evolved as a sector, or I would say a department or industry as well. What did you think of it when it was coming out? And do you think it's an accurate description, or is it a bit more difficult to pinpoint it?
Well, you mean in the titles itself, like being a data scientist or being a data analyst, or?
Well, there's a lot of overlap right now because when you say data scientist, some people mean data engineer, machine learning engineer, all these different fields. Sometimes there's a big overlap in different fields, but obviously it depends on the company as well.
Yes, yeah. I would, for all the listeners, if they're trying to really find or probably identify themselves in all of these titles, I would recommend, there was a book called Data Principles of Data Wrangling. That's an O'Reilly book, and you can find it really easily in Google. You just type the principles of data wrangling, and then you have like I can't remember, that was years ago when I read that book, but essentially there was like a tables that you've got big boxes of explaining the different parts and who should do what. Obviously nowadays this is kind of subjective because it always depends on the company, how they're visioning it, who is the manager, what he thinks a data scientist is, and obviously the department. If there is a department, sometimes in some of these companies you don't have a department. You've got like maybe one or two people somewhere in the company, and no one really kind of combined that to get like a single data governance. But this is what we do at Site Improv, and this is how I operate nowadays. But back to your question, the data science itself, that was pure statistics back in 2012. When you just look at a machine learning, like the machine learning, it exists for like decades, right? But people didn't call it machine learning.
No, exactly.
Now they do, but back then was just like big notebooks with tons of formulas and all of these stochastics, all of these regressions, linear regressions, random forests, and all of that. That was written in a notebook with a pen. And you just put all of these formulas, and all these professors told you, oh, you've got a mistake in line 4 in your notebook, you have to do it in that way. And you've got different, obviously, exams and assessments. Now, from all of these libraries available in Python, and you can build a model with 5 lines of code. Back then, fifths of trying to prove a regression, or even R squares and all of that jazz. Now it's like super easy. And people just, oh, okay, I can go to YouTube, I can watch 15 videos, and now I'm a data scientist. So yeah, the world is changing. So you always have that opportunities to upskill your skills, and you've got everything you need. There's so much good content nowadays in the internet. So you can, if you really want, you can be really successful within months if that's what you like. And of course, obviously, if you have a big hustle and you've got all these passion to succeed.
No, that makes perfect sense. And you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, all these machine learning models, data science models, they're purely based on statistics. They just invented a new fancy name for it, called it data science. And they're saying data science is the brand new profession for the 21st century, but it's not actually new. Some of the models that you can use are actually from 70s, 80s, and they're constantly developing new things all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And the power of AI, right? You've got now ChatGPT for that, answer your questions that you probably will spend like 10 or 15 minutes of finding these results in Google.
Exactly.
Straight away, within seconds. So and different subjects, I would say, that you can really make an impact for every single company and for yourself, being satisfied of your results, of what you achieve, what you can achieve, even if you're having own company, then you can build all of these stuff for yourself, and that will be your baby, right? Of just seeing how it grows and potentially sell that business to some of the big ones.
Exactly. So can you tell us a little bit about what is the most difficult part working on data projects? Because obviously somebody comes and says, I want you to help me build the model, but obviously you need to understand what are the requirements of the model. You need to understand what they're trying to achieve. You need to understand the data itself. And there's so many different nuances. So how do you approach data projects on your side?
Well, in general, you have to have, firstly, a good foundation of the data. So you need to have a good quality data to build any modeling. Then secondly, you need to have good stakeholders. So the stakeholders need to understand what they want to achieve with it, right? You can present them the models, you can tell them like, okay, this is 5 instead of 7, but then what? So obviously they will not be data tech savvy people. They will not really understand every single bit that we're talking about, just because they're not that technical. But as long as they give you a requirement of, okay, we want to achieve that, then obviously you work towards that goal and finding different solutions. And then a typical example might be propensity to buy or propensity to cancel models. Like, okay, what we need to do in order to get more clients. Obviously, you can do a lot of analysis. You can do like a TAM analysis, which is like total addressable market analysis. You can do white spaces. You can just find what companies are out there in order to sell your product. So you essentially have to go to your sales management, you present the data, you say, okay, well, go in this region, in this type of companies and attack there, because my model tells that these are the potential buyers of your product. So you get essentially estimates who is likely to buy your product. And on the flip side, who will churn, right? Because who will cancel? Because you've got all these portfolio companies, you've got maybe thousands of clients, but you don't know by the time they cancel, what was the reason of their cancellations. So you need to build these models to find out early stages or signals or motions that tells you, okay, this client maybe will churn with you or maybe will cancel with you, right? Mm-hmm. So these type of models are just one example of how nowadays companies will struggle with, because they didn't have a lot of data people inside. And with all of these stuff that happening in the world, you don't know what will happen, right? You see the banks now, like the banks in the US, which is like the latest news of how is that a problem? It sounds great, right? It sounds like, oh, well, some of these banks collapse. But when banks accept deposits from clients, they owe the client that money, right? So deposits are liabilities to the bank. So exactly. The liabilities cost money, like costs, like both to serve those clients, like branches, tellers, etc., and the interest the bank pays you on your checking account, like deposit, right? So to pay for the costs of those liabilities, banks turn them into assets. So leading deposits as small business loans, mortgages, etc. So if a bank can't lend deposit responsibly, it often uses access to buy loans for securities like U.S. Treasuries or the mortgage-backed securities, the MBS. So yeah, it's crazy words, but yeah, you never know what will happen tomorrow. Maybe a war, maybe another COVID. You literally don't know. So
No,
that kind of uncertainty leaves so many problems nowadays in the big companies, small companies, startups. Even nowadays, for us as a human beings, you don't know if they're not laid you off from your job, or would it be a lot of jobs available in the future, because obviously these AIs and machine learnings and all that replacing people, right? You just building robots, and even after 5 years, you may have robots serving your coffee to your table instead of a person. So obviously you're just replacing humans with AI and robotics. So yeah, crazy.
And so now my question is going to be two parts. So which methods do you use when you're building a project? Do you use an agile, waterfall type of structure, and what are the most important technical tools you use in your current role? Is it more, do you have a preference between programming languages, between R, Python, or something else? Or what do you prefer to use in terms of cloud services? Do you have a preference?
Good question, which is really broad question. You can attack this to so many angles. But in my current position, we're not doing machine learning right now, just because we're building a data warehouse first. So we use a well-known methodology called Kimball methodology. Mm-hmm. So that is like, it's nothing but a bunch of predefined processes and practices used for developing, designing, and maintaining a data warehouse by applying the bottom-up approach for these processing. So I would say the most recognized benefits of using it are the DB design, the developments, and the build can be really completed a lot faster compared to other methods. Cost for implementation and maintenance is pretty low, as will show kind of that evolvement of the data warehouse itself in the company, right? So the methodology we use is a set of defined methods, as I said, processes and techniques that are used to design and develop our data warehouse at SiteImprove. Yeah. So it is also referred with different names, such as like a bottom-up approach I was talking about. Before I bring some of the Kimball's kind of decision and modeling and data warehouse life cycles, I just want to distinguish two terminologies that are often misunderstood. So the data marts. So data marts is a specifically repository of data that was designed to answer specific questions, and multiple data marts exist in different field areas. So the data warehouse is an enterprise-wide repository that contains the information of the entire org.
Yeah.
So Kimball follows a different approaches in which dimensional data marts are created first. So the data sources we've got right now at SiteImprove, we've got like Salesforce, we've got Freshdesk. They're identified and fetched from different loads. Mm-hmm. So the start schema is crucial factor of dimensional modeling. So to organize the data in an integrated manner, the Kimball recommends that the dimensional table must be shared with different tables with various data marts. So this essentially helps you to put a single piece of data that can be used in a similar manner through the facts. Mm-hmm. So this is our first challenge of how we have to have the data first before we build anything, because the ultimate goal is to build a single source of truth that you've got all of these data into a single place as clean as possible. Obviously, the data cleansing is a really big part nowadays. The data quality will not be perfect, I would say, right? Because you always have like ability to clean something break. So the end users put a lot of, I would say, incorrect data. So you have to nudge them all. By the way, why are you doing that? I mean, let's find a way of how to clean that as much as possible. Then once you've got all of that data, then you can build all these models, because you know that your model of how you train your model will be as clean as possible and can make data-driven decisions that are really 100%, well, not 100%, but like 70, 80% correct, right? And when you move that, when you say the cloud, nowadays you probably see in a lot of companies moving on premises to the cloud. But then the cloud exists for so many years. So then I've been really thinking about it now, even with blockchain, of how many years that took for the companies to realize that the cloud is really powerful and move all of that. So the adoption of the cloud was super slow. And now when they told me about the blockchain and how we can adopt this, no, we're not ready yet, because that adoption, there are tons of great technologies, great companies, super intelligent people building a lot of stuff. But the mainstream, the adoption of that technology is not here. It will take a lot of time to adopt this, because again, for the example that I give you with the cloud exists for years. Yeah. But now probably the last 3 to 5 years, we're trying to move everything to the cloud and being really cloud
focused. Yeah.
Data-driven decisions based from the cloud's technologies. But yeah, that's the last part of your question about the cloud.
Mm. And do you have a preference between R and Python, or your program language agnostic?
I would say probably Python, yes, because it's widely populated and you can recruit more people because no one really. Oh, I have to be careful saying that, but if you've got a job requirements of knowing Python and you build all of this stuff in Python, then you may have a lot of candidates applying for that job. And obviously you can recruit them faster and you can start building models faster, which will have the impact of your company. Then if you're a fan of something else, then you may be struggling of finding candidates because that's not really popular. So you always have to understand the hype and the whole impact of how fast you have to make all these data-driven decisions in your company, because the time is really money, right? So as fast as you can build it and as fast you can present that to your stakeholders, then you have to have all these results. But that all is, again, back to your first question of this interview of the universities, right? If they're trying to put that in a university in a very early stage, then you know that out of this university, there will be 15 experienced people with Python. They will not be with Ruby. They will not be with any other languages because that's what they teach them. So that's again having an impact of how many students you've got out of the universities and what is their data stack, what they can bring to these companies, and how fast you can teach them, right? Because I can teach them in Pascal, right? That was, I don't know, 20 years ago. But would that make any benefit for me? No, because I'll use something really old that no one really knows. And these students from the university, even internships in my company, what's the point of just telling them something that they never experienced? But they started with Python in the university. Okay, now we have to implement Python just because this is what we've got as a current stack. And it's always better to start with students who knows at least the basics, because they can start producing and delivering more because they're familiar with these tools. So I would say a short answer to your question is depends on what the candidates have as a stack, just because of time and the ability to build models from day one. But I used to write in Ruby and R, so probably Python will be my choice, just because it's widely exposed in the 21st century, and a lot of students came from the university with this experience. And you've got a lot of data professionals nowadays, and in the same time, they continuously building a lot of new libraries that you can really use. And by import from that library, boom, the magic is happening. They give you all these squares, the likelihoods, everything is ready for you. So it's again, you don't want something that is really I would say blocked or freezed by the companies itself, because if they're not improving it, then the technologies are going way faster, and your tool is just limited to a number of stuff. Then your company may decide, okay, that has an impact of all of your productivity. Let's find another product that can deliver faster and can replace 5 heads. So why not we just buying a tool that can save all that money?
Yeah. I would say that from my experience, it depends, because both have their pros and cons. Obviously, with R you can build customizable shiny dashboards, as you know, which some companies like, some companies don't, because not always Power BI is the best tool for the job, or Tableau. But I agree that it depends on the requirement as well.
Oh, for the BI tools, the BI tools are all identical, right? Yeah. So you have Looker, you've got Cognos, you've got Tableau, you've got Power BI, and all these tools are just nothing more, just BI tool, that just visualizations, right?
Yeah.
But as long as your data is clean, you can do it in all of these. Exactly. In a similar model, a similar way. Mm-hmm. Obviously, of course, as you said, you've got pros and cons. For some of them, you may have more flexibility, more out of the box charts and graphs that can look better. But it's again of how many people know what to, how fast they can deliver, and how much that will cost for the company. Because nowadays, all of these big companies, or even like mid-sized companies, they've got contracts with Microsoft, and they have Power BI for free. So when you compare the Power BI as a free tool that you've got as part of your Microsoft deal, and Tableau that have to pay for licenses, then okay, what I should use? Something that is
the cheapest one. Yeah.
Is because the end users, like all of your, like your CFO, your CEO, they will not matter which tools. They can still see their best in class KPIs and like a bulletproof model. But what is behind? Would they really join into a powerbi.com or a tableau.com? For them, it doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
So yeah, I would say the BI, you can even build BI in Excel. You can do all these charts in Excel, although your data is not that dynamic and it's really sophisticated, but just an example of that.
Yeah, that's very true. So now we come to the fun part of the interview, some told me, because then people get to learn more about you. So do you have any hobbies, and what are they?
Yeah, I do. When I was a kid, I was playing football and obviously computer games. The computer games was really what got me into the whole computing part. Nowadays, I love to travel. Hopefully, one day I can say I travel to all countries in the world. I'm very far from that dream, as me and my fiance only traveled to like 34, 36, I would say, countries so far. So there are a lot to go. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'll be alive. But yeah, that's what I like, or just travel. And yeah, sometimes I'm now into kind of being in my flat and trying to construct some stuff, being a handyman. So learning how to build a bookshelf or all of that stuff, which is completely out of my comfort zone. But yeah, especially I recently bought a bookshelf, and they've got like a little instructions on how to do it.
Yeah.
And then it says typically you can build that for 40 minutes. I spent like 2 hours.
At least, yes.
Because
the instructions are not very clear.
Yeah, they are, but when you do like one mistake in the middle somewhere, and then in the end, say, oh, damn, I have to go back all the way, fix that mistake.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to be more productive out of my computer.
And do you have a favorite book that actually influenced you in a very significant way? Or maybe the most recent book you read?
I do like books that are always kind of in the direction of self-improvement, like of all these analytical parts that I mentioned. But obviously that will be boring for the entire audience. But I'll try to find one second, sorry.
Sure, no problem.
Try to find one of the books that I probably would recommend. Sorry, I know how that is spelled in Bulgarian, but I don't know how to do in English. That's why I'm just trying to Google it. Okay, so it's called Guns, Germs, and Steel. It's not related to data, but it's really good book. So I read it in Bulgarian, but you can find it in English as well. So it's a good book. It's something I would recommend.
Yeah, it's about human development and how it evolved over the different eras and based on geography or location, and how it has an impact on society as well.
Yes, yeah. So that was one of the recent ones I read, and it's I don't know if it's so true, of course.
Yeah,
but it's good, right? It's just making you feel, think about, oh really? Oh yeah, that might be. Oh, if that's true, then that's either ridiculous or you're fascinating. So,
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I really liked it as well. I've read it in English and it's very impactful, I would say, and very accurate. So
hopefully it's accurate. We don't know,
yes.
right? So everyone can write whatever they want.
Yeah. So what are your top three apps outside of work that you like to use?
Top three, what, sorry?
Top three apps that you like to use outside of work.
Apps. It's a good question. Probably the Google Maps is my top one. Then what else I use? I even don't know. It's a very good question. Let me try to see in my. I've got these screen times. I barely even use my phone. Okay, so the last three that I got from this morning: YouTube, Gmail, and CoinGecko, which is like a crypto.
Okay.
These are the three I would say.
Very interesting. I also use YouTube quite a lot actually. It's very good for learning.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And I have two final questions. So, where do you see yourself in the next 10 years?
Wow, that's a very good one. Probably being a chief data officer in some company, maybe my own company. I don't know. I haven't really got any passion of running my own business, but probably being a chief data officer. Then having a family, kids, hopefully. So I see myself as a dad. Hopefully to visit at least 10 countries. And last but not least, being invited again for your podcast.
Of course, definitely. And hopefully you achieve all those goals. And my final question is, if you could go back in time when you were like 18, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh, that was good. I would probably try to go abroad earlier than I did. Just because that obviously changed the whole way of how you think, makes you kind of more humble, more see the world in a different view. So I would say the world view is changing a lot, and that helps for everything else, of being able to see what is outside the box, and being able to implement a lot of these stuff earlier. So that's probably the only, I wouldn't say mistake, but a lesson that I would want to learn earlier than I learned so far.
That's very interesting. Yeah. I mean, it depends. Sometimes you might find what you're looking for where you were born. Sometimes you have to go abroad. It depends on your circumstances, but obviously,
yeah.
it's life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You never know what will happen tomorrow.
Exactly. And on this note, I would like to thank Alexander for taking the time. Thank you for sharing your insight into the world of data science and data in general. And I wish you the best of luck in achieving your goals in the next 10 years.
Cool. Thank you very much for having me. Really enjoying the conversation. I wish nothing but just a big success for the podcast. I think it will bring a lot of value for the young professionals, and you're doing an amazing job. So keep going.
Thank you very much. And on this note, I would like to thank our listeners, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you.